Actually, you can build a business around some of life's hardest moments and make a real impact in doing so. Justin Clifford would know. He's the CEO of Bereave, because grief is universal, but support, unfortunately, is not. Bereave is a platform that helps companies navigate death, bereavement, and workplace support, something that has hit me really, really close to home with the loss of my dad this year. But getting leaders to embrace this conversation, you're going to come to find, has not been so easy. In this episode, Justin shares what it's like to build a business in what he calls death tech, and why companies are avoiding talking about loss, and how shifting that mindset can actually change lives deeply. He also gets real about rejection, resilience, and why he's more determined than ever to make a difference. Justin is such a wonderful human, and you're going to love him. And if you have ever been told that won't work, or that thing that you feel is really important doesn't matter, Justin's story was really going to resonate with you. I'm Lindsay Chepkema, and this is Actually I Can. Justin Clifford, you're here.
Lindsay.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, and we've got so much to talk about. We have known each other a long time through many different lives, and now many different states. So we first met several companies ago, and you are now leading a company that is doing something that I cannot advocate for enough. You are leading a company called Bereave. Tell us a little bit about that and your journey to being there, and then we'll rewind.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It is great to be here. Great to see your face. Great to talk. We don't do it enough. Bereave exists to help people navigate death at home and at work. And we work predominantly with companies to help them build a support system for their employees when they experience some of the darkest moments in their lives. So that's what we do. That's why we exist. We're a software platform that provides HR manager tools, plus tools for people who are grieving, going through a loss, preparing for a loss, etc. My journey here is, just like most journeys that, end up in leading a death tech startup, I suppose. In the right place at the right time, kind of thing. I had taken a little break after 3 startups, running pretty hard, trying to figure out what was next for me. I worked with a coach to kind of, just figure out what was going on in my brain a little bit. And around that time, I was getting a little bit of clarity. I got a phone call from a friend of a friend, who, our circles are ran very, very closely together. And they had just never crossed paths. And he told me a little bit about the company that they were starting, and asked, they needed a little bit of somebody with sales, go-to-market background to help kind of move it forward. And it was very, very early. Still is very, very early. Took the opportunity to make what I feel like is a pretty big impact on people, the world. I have a teaching background, so a very strong intrinsic drive. And when I looked around, when I was thinking about this, looked around at any time I was in a crowded space, a grocery store, a concert, whatever it might have been, realized that this company won't, but could touch every single person that I encounter. And that seemed like a big enough calling for me to, go jump in with them and help them start the thing that we've started.
Yeah. And it's so important. And yes, you talked a little bit about what you do. It is a software platform. It is an, HR platform. It's for HR leaders and for business leaders. But the other part of what you're doing, that absolutely is touching so many people's lives, including me, is you're talking about it. You're bringing this really important, all too often behind closed doors conversation out into the light. And every time I see one of your posts on LinkedIn, there are so many comments, and it's not because you're crushing the algorithm or you're gaming the system. It's because you're talking about something that really, really
Yeah.
matters and is so important, and that people are like, yes, thank God you're saying that. Like, things that are just a mess and things that are wrong and things that beautiful people and situations that are happening, and you're bringing it all out into the light so that, some of the dark places can become brighter, and some of the places that are already bright and where there is love and there is light are getting more attention, so they can be
Mhm.
emulated. And personally, as someone who is navigating death, I mean, my dad, at least as we record this, is terminally ill. And just seeing how many other people have gone through it, are going through it, are helping others through it, um, speaking as one who's going through it right now, is so important to know you're not alone.
Mhm.
um, so thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose you're welcome in a weird way. We have this topic that, like you said, people resonate with because they've been through it, they've lived it, they are living it, they know they will live it to some degree. And um, you mentioned the LinkedIn thing, which is funny because people call me and they're like, "Hey, how are you doing that? How are you getting that?" It's like, here's the tip: is find something that impacts everybody that nobody talks about, and then go make it available to talk about. Like, that's the tip,
Yeah.
right? Um, uh, but the reason I think we have the capability to do that isn't because Bereave has a big following or I have a big following or anything. It's because people have been so generous, people like you that have been so generous and brave to call us or DM us or send us emails and just tell us their story. And the more stories that we can tell, the more we resonate with people, the more we can build what we've built. 60% probably of our platform has been built around stories we have heard,
Mm.
things that we say, hey, let's not ever let this thing happen again to this person or to anybody. Or, hey, that was a beautiful thing that should
Yeah.
happen more often. Let's build it into our platform so that we can promote things like that. So it really is the generosity and the bravery of thousands of people at this point that really have allowed us to be able to articulate what we need to articulate on the topic.
Yeah. And you have, I know, because you shared with me some of your actually I can moments. But before we get into those, I want to
Yeah.
hear if you were told, literally or figuratively, like, you're gonna go lead a death tech startup. I don't know if this was actually called, but I mean, like, you're gonna go lead a
Mm-hmm.
company, like, talking about death and dying and
Mm-hmm.
bereavement,
Mm-hmm.
bereavement policies. Like, you're gonna go do that. I can only imagine the kind of commentary or assumptions or
Mm-hmm.
second, I don't know, questioning of your choices that were made.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like when you were stepping into this role to lead such a
Yeah.
company?
Um, at first it was like, let's hear it out. Probably not, but let's hear them out. Um, and then I met with one of the co-founders who is a non-operating co-founder. His name is Matt, and he told me about the loss of his mom,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the reasons that Bereave exists. And then I met with one of our advisors, a friend of mine, a friend of, I think you guys know each other, Pat Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
Pat was an advisor to Bereave and a good friend of Matt's. Pat lost his dad, I think in 2017, very suddenly. And he and I just, sat down for 90 minutes and talked through his experience. And after just talking to Matt and talking to Pat and starting to hear other people's stories, you start to think about just like how unfair this is to people. The system of loss that we've started to refer to it as, that almost just kind of perpetuates the pain,
Yeah.
right? I've heard you talk about how broken it is. The whole process is of this part of life, but it's frankly an injustice that the things that survivors have to go do get in the way of them healing in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. Um,
Hmm.
and so, you throw something like that at me and, it's like, hey, that, that should probably be fixed. Am I the person to fix it? Probably not, but let's figure out if we can start chipping away at it and go kick up some dust, and let's cause a little bit of a ruckus, and maybe somebody at some point comes along and makes even more change because of that. And that's
Hmm.
really, we just kind of want to be the tip of the iceberg on that.
Yeah. Have you faced anyone? I mean, as you're fundraising or selling, like
Mm-hmm.
have you faced naysayers that are like, nah, like,
Oh,
or do you think that it's so personal that mostly people have been like, oh my gosh, thank goodness you're doing this?
yeah. Naysayers all the time. I mean, investors or prospective investors that don't want to touch the topic because it's tough to talk about. Some that don't quite see the importance of it because they haven't been through it and they don't know
Hmm.
many people that have been through it. And that goes to the same with prospects. I mean, I've literally, Lindsay, had prospects say to me, "We don't have death here." That is a
I want to
comment
work
that was
there.
made. Right,
Can
right,
I work there?
exactly.
Because
Right,
they're
yeah.
promising that their workplace has no death. That's
They're hiring.
fantastic.
They're hiring.
Gee.
It's not their
Oh my
tagline, but it
gosh.
should be. Um,
No death here.
uh, yeah,
Oh my
and it's
goodness.
this, and it's these. So there are naysayers all the time. There are people that say this product, this platform, this idea is genius. I wish I would have thought about it, but our organization isn't ready to have this conversation. Right? So, there is friction because of the
Yeah.
topic, no doubt. So part of our job has become to reduce the friction, not just to buy Bereave and become a customer, but to help reduce the friction on having difficult conversations.
Yeah.
Right. I used to work at a company called Lessonly here in Indianapolis, and one of our core values was that we have difficult conversations. And I think I took for granted
Yeah.
over 6 years of having difficult conversations and knowing that was a core value, I took for granted that people are okay doing that. People aren't okay doing that in a lot of respects. So it does take somebody right now with guts. It takes somebody um, with a little bit of fortitude to walk this into an organization. Sometimes an organization, one of our clients has uh, thousands of employees in 60 countries, and they're deploying Bereave, right?
Mm.
Like that takes guts to say,
Yeah.
we're doing this thing, we believe in it, this is why. Um, so there are the naysayers for sure, but there are the early adopters who have either faced hardship or are empathetic people, or they understand the impact of hardship on a P&L. All three of those things exist in the world.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again. Like, thank you for doing this because I can only imagine the kind of conversations that you have to have on a daily basis. But I, for one, am thankful that you are. And
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
but since I know you and since you shared some of the actually I can moments, I know that
Mm.
you have been preparing for this for a while because you have been told you
Sure.
shouldn't do something before.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
let's
Yes.
get into that. I mean, tell me a little bit about when I asked you to come on
Mm-hmm.
and join me for this conversation. You said a couple of conversations came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me
Mm-hmm.
about a time that you were told you couldn't or shouldn't and you did it
Yeah.
anyway.
Uh, it's probably a lot more than I recall, but I feel like I've been so lucky in my support system throughout my life that I haven't been. It doesn't come quickly. But one in particular is in high school, my junior year of high school, and I'll never forget this. Um, I was in a language arts class that I should not have been in. It was an advanced placement class. The kids that I was in school with went to Duke and Notre Dame and Harvard and like all these, like I should not have been in this class. Everybody knew I should not have been in this class, right? I was told on a regular basis I should not be in this class. And I just kind of laughed it off, whatever. It's like, haha, you're
Yeah.
just, whatever. It's a fun conversation to have. And then about halfway through the year, the teacher, her name is Paulette Swedak. I will never forget. Very, just an incredible teacher. But she pulled me in the hallway to do kind of like mid-year reviews and said to me, you know you don't belong in this class, right? Like, it's like, yes, I know. I didn't say that. But I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, basically told me I wasn't good enough or smart enough without saying those words that I shouldn't be in that class. And even though I knew it, I was like, well, I think you're wrong about that. And she she basically, again, without saying prove it, basically told me to prove it. Right. So it became my like it became my drive. Lindsay, I didn't care if I was in an AP English class. Like that wasn't going to be my thing, right?
Yeah.
But it became my thing, right? And the first opportunity we had, we were doing this project where you were paired up with somebody. And I had a couple friends in the class, but most of the ran in different circles. And I got paired up with somebody who I did not know very well, who was very quiet, incredibly bright. But we had to act a Shakespeare scene. We had to put
Uh-huh.
together this thing, and it was fine. People put on some costumes here and there, and they stood in the thing and they acted it. But I was just hell bent on proving Paulette Sweetak wrong. I wasn't an actor. I played sports, wasn't an actor. But this moment was the opportunity to get her attention. And so the girl that I was partnered with and I got together. We planned this thing out. We brought in we brought it. It was a violent scene in a Shakespearean play. Don't remember which one, but brought in some corn syrup and some food coloring for the blood. Hid it behind this thing and did this whole scene and ended it with blood all over me, like the corn syrup or whatever.
Very sticky,
When
messy blood.
sticky, messy, but we didn't care. Like this was my thing. Like we just had to get her. I
Yeah.
had to get her attention. Um, and at the end of it, I'll never forget looking over at her. She stands up behind her desk and just starts giving us this rousing standing ovation. And like in that moment, I was like, got it. I
Got it.
gotcha.
Got it.
Gotcha. So at least I bought myself time to then like, study up a little bit, hit the books a little bit, get some study partners. But I stayed the rest of the year in that class really only because she told me I couldn't or that I shouldn't. I would have been delighted to go a step down. Like I would have been delighted. But instead I had to go the other way to prove her wrong.
Hmm. And here you are, like, well, not like this very moment, but like sales. I mean,
Sure.
like
Sure. Yeah.
if that's not a
Mm.
salesperson slash sales leader slash future CEO, I don't know what it is. Like finding a way, that competitive streak, that like I'll show you, I'll prove it, I'll win
Yeah.
you over.
Yeah.
The theatrics, like
Right.
that's
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
this
Yeah.
sounds
Right.
right. This
The
sounds
dog and
right.
pony.
So yeah. So, I mean, obviously it stayed with you if it was like one of the first
Yeah.
things that you thought of for this conversation. How has
Hmm.
that, even in ways that I'm sure are probably even subconsciously, but how do you think that that
Hmm.
stayed with you? How do you think that that's impacted you onward?
Yeah. I mean, it is oddly one of the most vivid memories of my like high school life. Um, uh, I think it just kind of has stuck with me because it is something to kind of fall back on. It's an experience that even though we're talking high school English class, right? It's an experience that allows me to know that if I believe in something or if I want something, I can, even if I fail, I can try really, really hard to get close, right?
Yeah.
So things like finishing up a fundraise, things like launching a new platform, creating new go-to-market motions, all of these things, these are all really difficult to figure out, but they're all solvable problems,
Hmm.
right? I mean, sometimes I might not like the answer. I might not like the answer of from investors, or I might not like the answer from customers, or I might not like the answer on our P&L. Like, but they are solvable problems. It just takes,
Hmm.
I think, a lot of willingness to run into the wall a bunch of times and to
Hmm.
keep going and keep trying new things. And I think that mentality. I don't know if it was birthed there in Miss Sweetak's class, But that was probably one of the first times where, somebody told me I couldn't. I said I could, and I did, and at least established a little bit of a baseline for like, it's worth going to try it.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think that version of Justin shows up? Like, when do you see that I'm going to do this thing, and
Yeah.
not only am I going to do this, I'm going to bring the corn syrup and the food coloring,
Yeah.
and I'm going to win.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
when and how does that show up, and do you think of that day
Yeah.
when he
Well,
does?
it showed up in our earliest fundraising, quite a bit. And I was asked very specifically, when we entered our kind of our pre-seed round of funding, which is kind of where we're lingering right now. Like, what if this specific buying investor, what if we don't invest? And, we were low on cash and, you know, burning probably a little bit more than we should, and stopped taking salary and stopped taking anything like, we weren't paying ourselves like anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I think my answer in that moment was that we'll figure it out. And I might have been lying to myself, but I needed to tell myself a story that
Mm-hmm.
I could go get the corn syrup, I could go get the food coloring, like if we're gonna go down, we're gonna go down swinging, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was, that type of thing shows up a lot just day to day, just in sales. Like I mean, I've been in sales for probably 15 years, and in sales leadership for 10, and you get kicked in the shins enough, and that's just a constant reminder from people when they say no, I don't want to become a customer. That's just, in my mind, somebody telling me that we can't do something, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when that happens over and over and over and over, thousands of times over the course of a decade, I suppose, you just kind of develop a little bit of thicker skin and an opportunity to believe in yourself. I wish it were easier. I wish it could have happened faster for me, in my career, but you figure it out, and be okay if it doesn't go the way that you expected or the way that you wanted, because each of those moments is going to make the next time you're in front of somebody easier or better or smoother or whatever it is. So
Mm-hmm.
each one of those moments just compounds, and I think it shows up in our sales calls. I think it shows up in fundraising. I think it shows up in really anything that we do, anything that I do, because I'm failing way more times than I'm succeeding every day.
Yeah.
And you just starts to build that belief that, a little bit of trust in yourself, right? There's plenty of voices in my head saying you can't, right? Or you shouldn't, or what are you
Yeah.
doing? Or it'd be easier if you did X, right? All those voices. But I trust myself, and I trust myself to look in the mirror every night and say, did the best I could. And if I do the best I can and use my resources and call people like you when they offer, like, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. So, tell me this: when you say, not that you're like saying the words "actually I can," but if you were to,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think you complete that sentence? Do you think it's
Mm-hmm.
actually I can win this? Do you think it's
Mm-hmm.
show up brave? Do you think it's
Mm-hmm.
give it all I got? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
where do you think your mindset is as far as like telling yourself you can do what? Like, is it about winning? Is it
Yeah.
about trying? Is it about,
Mm-hmm.
giving it your best? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's that side
Yeah.
of that
I
sentence?
think I think my head goes right to, I can over here, and it's just do this. And I think it's just do this because some days it might be trying. Some days it might be winning. Some days it might be, resting, right? Some
Yeah.
days it might be unplugging. Um, I was working too late last night and went to bed with everything on. Slept well, but I woke up, and to this morning, I woke up with like, I can move faster. Is kind of what was in my head. I can move faster.
Hmm.
I'm sure by Monday, today's Thursday, I'm sure by Monday, I'll wake up and say, I can move slower. Right. So
Yeah.
like, I think just the phrase I can, and then fill in the blank with whatever that day brings in a world of change and, the startup minutia. I think that's really where I would focus, is just the front half of that, and then fill in the blank depending on the day and the feeling and the challenge.
Hmm. So important for leading a startup. It's because every day is a new need for an actually I can. And I don't think I never thought about it that way, but it's absolutely true because your job before we started recording, I was like, how's it going? You're like, well, I'm this, and like I'm an SDR, I'm fundraiser,
Yeah.
I'm the like soon to be janitor, I'm like
Yeah.
all of these
Yeah.
things. And that is absolutely the truth. And some days
Mhm.
it's, yeah, I can show up and clean up the office and be the person who
Mhm.
empties the dishwasher at the office and
Yeah.
treats the office like an extension of my house. And other days it's
Right.
actually I
Yeah.
can go land this multi-million-dollar deal that I feel
Mhm.
absolutely unqualified
Mhm.
for, and everything
Sure.
in between. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good way to think about it.
And I like what you just said too. Like, go land a multi-million-dollar deal that I feel unqualified for. Um, I think that the phrase "I can," and I'm just going to start writing it all over the place, so it'll be everywhere, be on my mirror and stuff. But I
I'll have a mug
think
for you very soon that you
I
can start to remind yourself.
awesome. Uh, I think that phrase really just helps cut through all the self doubt. Right. I mean, it's probably maybe even a crutch to some degree. Probably some psychologists can tell me, I'm using it in a way that's a crutch because I really don't believe, or whatever. I don't know how the brain works well enough, but,
Yeah, who
um,
knows?
but right, but that, knowing that I'm probably unqualified for almost everything that we are doing right now as a company, because I've never done it before. This is my first time leading a company like this. Um, that if I don't have something to fall back on, if I don't at least fake my brain out and fake myself out to to
Mm-hmm.
to think through that a little bit, I don't know how we'd be able to operate if I didn't have that phrase with me.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, it sounds very woo woo, but it's true. And people that I've talked to, even on the show, have talked who know a lot more about how the brain works than I ever will,
Hmm.
have said time and time again that like what you say, especially out loud to yourself,
Hmm.
actually does matter. Like,
Yeah.
and if you do constantly say things like, actually, I can do this. Actually, I am qualified.
Hmm.
Actually, I am going to show up.
Hmm.
Actually, I am going to try. Actually, I
Hmm.
can win. That actually does make a difference.
Hmm.
Um, just like it would if you're like, I can't, I shouldn't, I won't, I'm not,
Hmm.
like, I'll
Yeah.
never. It actually does
Yeah.
make a difference.
Yeah. Totally. And as you're saying that too, I don't engage in a whole lot of like self talk out loud like that, and I don't know why. It's not something that
I
I
don't
that I
either.
do. But what I do, my fallback, are certain songs that I can listen to loudly in the car that have those kind of words, right? That actually, when I'm singing them, probably is doing exactly. And there's the component of the musical structure
Mm-hmm.
that helps too. I tend to listen to hip hop, but those songs, when I am like in those moments of complete uncertainty, and sometimes I'm a little scared, I put those songs on because A, 'cause I like the beat, but B, they've got lyrics that I sing out loud, and I'm probably just pumping myself up in a lot of ways. And I think it works because I leave those songs feeling more confident. I'll say
Mm-hmm.
than when
Yeah.
I before I turned it on. So that might be, again, I'm just riffing here. I have no idea if that actually does anything to me, but it does. It serves some purpose for
Dear
me.
Dear brain scientists who
Right.
are listening to this show,
Yes.
please tell us what we're please correct our thinking,
Yeah.
or don't
Yeah.
tell us the ways that
Yeah.
we're absolutely correct because
Yeah.
What do we
Or
need?
maybe
What
it's
are
just my
decision
therapist
making?
that I need to dial in. I don't know. So there's
Yeah.
somebody.
Maybe like, Justin, I listened to your podcast with Lindsay, and we need
Right.
to talk
We need to talk.
about
Right.
this self-talk thing.
Right.
So okay, so tell me more about. I think you said you had like two stories. Is there
Mhm.
another specific situation that came to mind about
Yeah.
actually I can moment? Do tell.
It's about Bereave. Outside of the naysayers, the company was started to make sure that we could start chipping away on a better survivor experience. And the initial path, the thinking was, let's go to funeral homes, let's go to cemeteries, let's go where people are when they're experiencing this. Turns out that's too late of a spot to go to. But as I'm having those conversations with funeral home directors and people at the big funeral home roll ups and all of those types of things. What was also happening at the same time is that people were raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I see you're doing something at Bereave, and we don't know what it is, but I'd like to tell you about my story of my person." People started coming to me and saying, "I want to tell you about the death of a loved one." And so I started having, at first it was just dozens of conversations. It's in the thousands now, but um, people would all say, here's my person, here's how we lost them, here's when we lost them, here's what my manager did, here's what happened at work. And then they would go on and tell the rest of the story. And
Hmm.
that kept happening over and over and over and over. And it was just this awkward moment of like, hey, why are you talking about work? And it turns out there is such a big impact on what happens at work to people's ability to grieve and mourn and move through that process peacefully.
Yeah.
And it's a massive, incredibly critical part of the employee experience. So as that trend emerged, I started calling some HR people and started asking them, like, what do you do when somebody comes and says, hey, I just lost a loved one? Or what do you do if you were to lose an employee? And they had no idea.
Hmm.
Generally speaking, had no idea. So then I called a couple of people that kind of play in the like selling to HR benefits space who I trust immensely.
Mm-hmm.
Good friends, smart people. There were 3 of them I called on the same day. And all of them said, no way. Don't see it. You can't do it. You shouldn't do it. Stay out of it.
Hmm.
Not a good path. Right. And I said, thank you for your feedback. Nicely said. I wasn't calling for your permission necessarily. Uh, I was calling for your advice because we're going to go do this because the need is there.
Yeah.
I've got the data points. I've got the stories. HR and business might not be ready for it, but we're coming. And they said, well, I love you for you, but I think you're headed down the wrong path. You probably shouldn't do that. But good luck. Call me if you need me. Right.
Hmm.
And there was one very in particular conversation with probably one of my closest friends who I've worked with before. I remember exactly where I was driving down Meridian Street in Indianapolis, right at about 42nd Street. And he's basically like trying to talk me out of it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciated that because I got to ask a lot of questions about why and how hard it is and all of these things. And um, I hung up on each of those calls, even more convinced that we needed to go do it, oddly enough. Um,
Yeah.
so, and we did, and we have, and we built a prototype, and people bought that prototype, and uh, it pushed us into a fundraise, and it's pushed us into developing enterprise grade software, which is about to get released. And like, if I hadn't had those conversations with those knuckleheads, again, good friends of mine,
Yeah.
to tell me not to do it, I don't know. We might not have gone down the path as quickly and as with such disregard for what everybody says about companies that are getting into any sort of death related industry, right?
That is incredible. And a couple of people have come on and I've had conversations with them about similar things where it's like if you listen to everyone, you'll go to literally nowhere, and
Yeah,
you have
sure.
to have conviction about
Hmm.
like who this is for, why you're doing it, what you're going to do no matter what. You have to be able to discern good advice and bad advice, which I love that you shared. Like, these are good people. I still love them. I still respect them. They love me.
Mm-hmm.
This thing that you're doing
Mm-hmm.
is not for them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
not anyone could
Mm-hmm.
step into the CEO role at Bereave and do what you're doing. And some people will see that and be able
Mm-hmm.
to support that in very specific ways. And other people can only see it through their lens. And that's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the most critical and often overlooked part of all of that is being able to discern the advice that's for you from the advice that's not. And that doesn't make it bad advice.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And it certainly doesn't make them bad people. It's
Mm-hmm.
just being able to take a minute and say, what am I going to do
Mm-hmm.
with this thing that I just
Yes.
received?
Yeah. I should be doing that a lot more. Like I have
It's
a
easy
very
not to.
visceral reaction sometimes. I'm just like, you're wrong.
Me too.
I'm
Yeah.
going right. Uh,
Yeah.
but I love the concept. I'm gonna take that away with me along with the I cans. But I'm gonna take that away with me today. So I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a session here. So thank you for that. But uh, like listening to the advice, absorbing it, and saying, what do I do with this advice before I make a decision on it? Because I do. You know, people have said like, hey, you should price it this way, and I'm like, okay, go to the website, adjust the pricing,
Yeah.
right? Like, wait a minute, let's slow down here a second and let's think through that. So I really love that advice. We should change the
Yeah.
name of this show and just start, you know, Lindsay says, and we'll do that.
No way. No, that would be very dangerous. Very, very dangerous and so emotional. But yeah, I think for me as a CEO, I think that was one of the hardest things. It's one thing if you're really passionate about something because
Mm-hmm.
if it makes you get really defensive, you're like, then it's almost easier to call it up
Mm-hmm.
and be like, what's happening here? But if it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, using pricing and packaging as an example, I don't know what to price it. They said pricing,
Sure.
it should be this, done.
Yep.
And you have so much on your plate that the faster someone can help you, the more it's like, helped, check, onward. And I
Yes.
think
Yes. Yes.
that's where a lot of things can break.
Yeah.
Is not taking a minute and reflecting, even especially on the things that you're like, I don't know what the right answer is.
Sure.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So
And I do want to say, like, the people that told me not to do this, not to go down this path, and they said, hey, you guys shouldn't, like, it's possible that they were right. Like, we don't know yet.
right.
We've got some traction, but like we haven't saved the world yet. So maybe they were right. But I'm wholeheartedly against everything that they said in that conversation that had to do with what we should and shouldn't do.
Exactly. And I also um there was something somewhere, it's probably on Instagram, some expert in the things was
Mm-hmm.
talking about how there is no right path. Like, I think we
Right.
always
Mm-hmm.
think, especially, you know, when we're running a company, like, is what's the right way? What's the right
Yeah.
pricing? What's the right packaging? What's the right messaging? What's the right
Yeah.
thing to do here? There is no right way. And we'll
Yeah.
never know. You will never
Mm-hmm.
know. Even in failure, if that failure had to happen to get you to where you ultimately need to be. And would
Yes.
you have gotten there another way? No one will ever know. And so I think
No one will know.
this thought process of right or wrong,
Mm-hmm.
black, white, yes, no, is something that the sooner you can wipe it out of your mind, the
Mm-hmm.
better, because it's all
Yeah.
about pursuit, testing, learning, growing,
Mm-hmm.
repeat.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't mean to be cliche, but it does remind me of the Chinese proverb with the man who says maybe a bunch to all of these big things that,
Yes.
you know, people say, hey,
Yep.
you must be so happy, it must be so great for you, and he says, well, maybe. And the bad thing
Maybe. Yep.
happens and they say, you know, this sounds
Or
like a
that's so
disaster, and he's like,
terrible.
maybe.
Yep.
Right. Because you don't really know where it will lead. And I think things like that, and you know, I don't get into like proverbs a whole lot, but I do think like tools like that for like sanity purpose can be
Yes.
really helpful to kind of fall back on. So it's the I cans, and like I think that's a tool, right? It's the tool of listening to advice and absorbing it. It's the tool of finding some story or some person or a saying that you can kind of fall back on to kind of ground yourself, and kind of keep that midline instead of the high highs and the low lows, is probably healthiest thing that I can think of for like mental health of an early stage leader.
100%. Man. Okay. So all that to say, parting words of wisdom or otherwise for anybody who's here. What's something kind of in summary you want to share?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think, I mean, I could go the Bereave angle. I could go the early stage company angle, but I think like more broadly, like you can.
Mm-hmm.
There are certainly tough moments in a lot of aspects of life, but you can.
Hmm. Powerful. Two very, very powerful words, and such a wonderful human. Thank you for being you, Justin. You're so great.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're
Thank
here.
you.
Thanks for doing everything you're doing with Bereave. Thanks for sharing it. What you're doing matters in a really big way, and what you're doing matters, what you're building matters, and how you're talking about it matters. So thank you. Where can people find you? Where can people find Bereave?
Bereave.io is the website. You can type in Bereave on LinkedIn, and we should be relatively available. And if you're looking for me, you can do so on LinkedIn as well. It's just Justin Clifford, and I don't know. I'm probably the only Justin Clifford with a goofy red beard, and hopefully you can figure it out from there.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, thanks, Justin. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks for joining me for another episode of Actually, I Can. And did you know that actually you can subscribe so that you never miss an episode? Yeah, do it now. And you can also go to actuallyican.show and watch any episode anytime. Thanks for joining.